listen, you can accuse me of being East Coast biased because I live in Florida. I get it. But the starting times for some of these games, like, we need to, like, again, this is one of these things we need to push it a little, make it a little bit easier for the fans. And the thing is, I understand, like, oh, well, then the West Coast viewers, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, West Coast viewers are not going to have a problem if their game is on a little bit earlier. Like, they'll be fine, So I just think that, especially when we talked about college, especially college football games, the primetime games taking forever and a day, right? Starting the national championship game at 8:00 at night is just, it's lunacy. Like, what are we doing? Like, we've got to get these things on. And I'm talking half an hour to an hour earlier. I'm not talking, light years earlier, but it's just ridiculous living on the East Coast and having NBA Finals games start at 9:00. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what we're doing. And if we again, we don't need to. This doesn't need to change the world. But if you started Monday Night Football at 7:00, oh my God, what a blessing that is.
Yeah. 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 That's a great point. It's just kind of funny that they feel like it's such a problem if you start the game a little bit earlier, right? Like, maybe people tune in a little bit later. Maybe they miss the first few minutes of the game. Maybe they miss the first quarter. If it's a good game, they'll keep watching. If they're a fan of one of the teams, they're going to keep watching. We've probably got enough data to show that that's what happens. So yeah. And especially in the age of like DVRs, I mean, does it have to like people can, which maybe, I don't know, that maybe that defeats your argument, but no. I mean, you can kind of, people can rewind stuff. They can watch, they can catch they can catch what they missed, a little bit later after the start time, so they don't have to be up so freaking late, and it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, we got to consider the West Coast audience. Well, how about this? Okay, because it feels like in order to consider the West Coast audience, you're totally screwing the East Coast audience. Like, we don't want to be watching these games at 1 a.m. or midnight. I want this to be over at like 10:30, 10:45. Like, I don't want to be up till 11:30, midnight. We don't want to be up.
And the greater good, right? The other three. How about the other three time zones? Why don't we just, if that's more people anyway, why don't you just take care of them? And by the way, you're arguing, you're thinking about DVRs. Like, I get that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that argument. But one of the best things, and all the TV networks are making all their money off of live sports. That's what they're selling. It's live. That's the whole point of it. Yes, we can watch it on DVR. That's fine. But that's not their target audience. Their target audience is not the people who are going to DVR it and watch it later. They're trying to get casual fans. So I just think, I think we could do a much better job with the starting times for the World Series, the starting times for the NBA Finals. The Super Bowl is pretty decent. 6:30 in the afternoon is actually, it's the one thing where they actually give us a break on it. The Final Four is pretty good. The first game starts at like 6:00, and then the second game is at 8:00. So they do pretty well with that. But the national championship game at 9 p.m.
Yeah, it's always it's at 9 p.m. or it's on at some funky ass time like 9:23 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're screwing us even more. They're having us turn it on at 8:00, and it doesn't start until 8:30. So I think
it's like, guys, come on, man. Like, I'm not doing this, and it's so funny because people complain about this stuff every freaking year. I mean, they're like, you'll turn on, like, you'll hear radio shows and stuff like, oh, so when does the game start? 9:30. It's like, oh God, really?
Yeah, well, this year with the college football games, Clark, the semifinal games, the Rose Bowl's on at 5:00 in the afternoon because it always has to be on at 5:00 in the afternoon because they want the sun setting over the mountains halfway through the third quarter. So the Rose Bowl, and again, the Rose Bowl has to screw everything up. So we get the first game at 5:00 Eastern, which is okay, fine. But then the second game's at 8:45. Like, we're literally, it's completely unnecessary. Put them, and with that, you could put them on different days if that would be no big deal.